We all know that most of the time, lake monster footage is terrible. It's either too shaky, too blurry, or filmed from too far away. But the Lake Van monster footage is different. It's the clearest lake monster footage to ever be recorded. What is this thing? Could it really be an actual sea monster and prove that this cryptid exists? I've viewed this footage over 100 times and strongly believe that I know exactly what it is. And what it is might just shock you. In 1997, a man approached CNN with an unnerving video. He shot the video himself in eastern Turkey. It had already been broadcasted countrywide in Turkey, but now it was going international. This footage is considered by many to be the best lake monster footage out there. The man was Ünal Kozak. He had become obsessed with Turkey's legendary Lake Van monster. There have been other alleged videos and photos taken of the creature, but none have been as concrete as this one. Kozak set up his camera at a location where the creature had been spotted before and waited. The creature appeared, then disappeared. Without warning, it appeared again, then disappeared. It broke the surface a final time before disappearing for good. At least that's what Ünal claims. But Ünal might not have been telling the truth about everything. More on that later. Lake Van is the largest lake in Turkey, spanning 3,755 square kilometers and reaching 451 meters in depth. Plenty of room for a lake monster. The lake was formed over 600,000 years ago through tectonic movement and volcanic eruptions. It's extremely salty, and only one known fish species inhabits the ancient lake. The Lake Van monster only began being spotted in 1995. However, there are reports dating back hundreds of years of an aquatic dragon living in the lake, and some believe that the creature can be seen in church wall carvings from 900 AD. There are conflicting descriptions of what the Lake Van monster actually looks like. It is often described as similar to either a plesiosaur or an ichthyosaur. Both are extinct marine reptiles that have not existed for well over 60 million years. The Lake Van monster is said to have dark skin with a long head and flippers. It's also huge, 15 meters in length. The Lake Van monster footage consists of 6 parts. The subject first appears and moves through the water. The subject stops moving. A close-up of the subject while it produces bubbles. The subject's back? The subject sits in place, then disappears below the surface with a cut in between. And a shot of the subject in full. Let's start with the basics. The video is low quality. While you can make out some details, it's far from perfect. Because this footage is just snippets from a news story, I'm inclined to believe that there's a full version that is not publicly available. Some of the filming and editing choices are suspect. The camera doesn't pan to show more of the creature, and the cuts are too early. When there's a greater zoom, the quality is higher, which is not what you should see if it was all filmed at the same distance. Ünal filmed it from the shore, so you would expect the look to be consistent. The video does appear to be shot on Lake Van. The color of the water is consistent between shots, and in a couple of shots, you can see the distant shore. This shore matches images of the lake found online. I've isolated the audio of the footage and don't hear anything suspicious. Just waves against the shore and other lakeside ambience. Now back to the creature. These are the most popular theories used to explain what is seen in the footage. Most people immediately see an elephant. However, this theory immediately runs into problems. There are no records of elephants having ever lived near Lake Van, and there are no wild elephants in Turkey today. There are also no zoos, sanctuaries, or circuses around the lake. The subject has no tusks, trunk, or ears clearly visible. It doesn't move like an elephant either. It kind of just sits there. Another theory that I saw constantly online was that it's garbage being pulled through the water by a boat. I couldn't find a source for this theory, but I think that it can be disproven. The shot of the head is definitely not some random junk. Also, this theory does not explain the bubbles. I find it very unlikely that there's a boat on the lake because there are no boat sounds. On a similar note, could it be a log? For the same reasons as the last theory, this one doesn't stack up. However, whatever's in the last shot does look and act a lot like a log. If not an elephant, it could be another animal. There will always be those who are confident that this is the real Lake Van monster. The eye is very obvious. This is an eyeball. If it is a marine reptile, it would need to resurface for air. The bubbles attest to this, and they would be difficult to fake. And lastly, the thing in the footage is big, and so is the Lake Van monster. But of course, there's always the possibility that it was a hoax. I strongly believe that the 1997 Lake Van monster footage is a hoax. While analyzing the footage, I realized that it had to be an actual animal. I see movement in the skin, and then of course the bubbles. You can see a little bounce of the skin when it rises above the surface, right here. While I truly wanted this to be a real unknown marine reptile, the skeptic in me couldn't get my mind off of how much it looks like an elephant. While it's hard to see in this low quality, you can see wrinkles all around the head. You can see these most clearly on what I believe is the bridge of the trunk. Speaking of the trunk, the most damning piece of evidence that this is an elephant is a shot where you can actually see the trunk move. Take a look at this. The trunk is about to rise above the water, and then it quickly cuts away. Here, I'll slow it down. You can clearly see movement in the front of the head that is separate from the rest of the head. So I started looking at pictures of elephants. There are 3 different elephant species: the African bush elephant, the African forest elephant, and the Asian elephant. The elephant in the film is an African forest elephant. You can tell because the tusks point down, it has a sloping skull and oval-shaped ears. This is its ear. You can even see where the ear ends right here. And in case you were wondering, yes, elephants can blow bubbles. The 2 biggest problems I had with my conclusion was that you can't see an ear fold, and if these are its ears, why aren't they flapping all over the place? Thankfully, both of these can be solved with a single picture. Do you see anything strange in this higher quality photo? What is this thing? It's not part of the creature. You can see a shadow around the outside. An elephant hat or something. This is what must be holding the ears in place and covering the ear fold. It seems that it attempts to blend in, but the color is a little off. When I put the hat on an elephant in a similar position, it highly resembles the monster footage. If you got rid of this piece, it would become painfully obvious that this is an elephant. However, this does not explain the final shot of the entire body and the other shot of the back. These shots do not show an elephant. This may be a log. I'm not 100% sure. It definitely floats like a log. If they brought an elephant to the lake, I'm sure they could have found a convincing log. The film is deceptive. It uses both camera tricks and sneaky editing to hide the fact that it's an elephant and a log. The film never pans across from the head to the rest of the body. It's either the body or the head. They were filmed separately. The shots are far too short and cut before anything that ruins the illusion of a giant lake monster can be seen. The subject in the film was more gray than orange. This can be seen in the original CNN broadcast. It is insanely unlikely that a giant sea monster could survive in the harsh environment of Lake Van, let alone thrive for millennia. This is emphasized by Oran Ehrman, a biology professor who said, "It is simply not possible for a creature of the size claimed by witnesses to live in a closed lake, Lake Van." There is no Lake Van monster. But one question remains. Who was responsible for the hoax? Unal could not have pulled this off on his own. It was orchestrated by the city of Van. As mentioned earlier, the Lake Van monster didn't begin appearing until 1995. The origin of the Lake Van monster is rooted in mythology and has been propped up by legends of Western monsters like the Loch Ness Monster and the Ogopogo. After the Turkish monster originally appeared, James Russell, an English scholar, began interviewing the locals of Van. He claims that the locals told him the stories of the Lake Van monster were fabricated as a ploy to drive up tourism revenue. While researching for this video, I came across a news article that had only been published last month. The article claimed that a man who worked for the city of Van came forward claiming to have fabricated sightings beginning in 1994. He said that he did this to promote tourism for Van. I can no longer find the article anywhere, hence why I'm hesitant to list this as a fact. I believe that it was taken down soon after I saw it, but I will keep looking for it. In 1997, the city of Van shipped an elephant to Lake Van, prepared it for camera, got a local teaching assistant to film convincing videos of both logs and the elephant, edited the footage together for public viewing, then sent the footage to news agencies across the world. After the incident, the city of Van saw a boost in tourism. Unal Kozak wrote a book on the Lake Van monster. News agencies got to air an exciting story, and the world was successfully duped. Everyone won, except for us. The 1997 Lake Van monster footage was an elaborate hoax. While I do believe that this is correct, it's only my analysis, and I could be overlooking or missing something. I encourage you to comment what you think. Also, like and subscribe if you did enjoy. Thanks for watching.